Alex is finally out on Street Fighter 6, and I know that there's a ton of people out there that want to give the character a try and have fun. So in this video, I'm gonna teach you 5 things about Alex that you must know to understand the character, learn how to play him relatively quickly, effectively, and have fun as soon as possible. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that we have to go over is going to be how to simplify Prowler's stance. This is going to be one of the most important things in Alex Kit, but also one of the most complex because Prowler's stance has a ton of different follow-ups. But the way in which you can understand it to make it less overwhelming is that you need to use certain follow-ups depending on the range in which you are on the screen in relationship to your opponent. So for example, if you are on the mid-range, you should be using mostly forward and punches and heavy kick after Prowler's stance, because these are the old charge motions that Alex used to have in games like Third Strike or Street Fighter V, and they are in some way or form designed to actually play neutral more than use it necessarily in between combos or as a part of pressure. So if you are in that mid-range and you want to simplify neutral, you can just go into Prowler's stance and do forward light punch, medium punch, or heavy punch depending on the range and the way in which you space it, because it can be plus on block. Or you can also do Prowler stance into heavy kick and get this attack, which is essentially a jump in if you think that your opponent is not gonna be ready to end tier. And this move is actually always plus on block. It doesn't need any sort of spacing just to actually hit it. So these 2 moves are key to play neutral in the mid-range with Alex if you want to use his Prowler stance, and it is mostly what you should be worried about when it comes to that range. And if you want kind of like an extra mid-range option that is a little bit more cheeky, you can also do Prowler stance into down light punch, light kick. And this is going to give you a command grab that actually has forward momentum. So if your opponent is extremely passive and is just there blocking, standing on the same position, you can open them up with this. And those 3 options are kind of like the simplified version of Prowler stance in the mid-range. Oh, and just in case that you didn't notice, a lot of the time after hitting heavy kick from Prowler stance, if people are blocking, you are in range to get a mix-up with a power bomb. So do not sleep on the command grab after plus frames. And then later, if you move into a situation in which you want to use Prowler stance up close as a form of pressure, you can use light punch to get your jabs out of Prowler stance, which are really good, kind of like a check. And you can also do heavy punch, either normal or charge, and it's gonna be plus on block. And also, if you hit it, it actually gives you a combo extension with a link with a standing light kick. Both of these options are super good for pressure out of Prowler stance, and if you do actually the charge version of a lariat or heavy punch out of the stance, it can even defeat some interactions against DPs or also against drive impact. So they are insanely good, and you should be using them a ton in your matches. Oh, and don't forget that if you see people getting too comfy blocking when you are pressuring them with Prowler stance, you can do light punch plus light kick to get a regular grab out of the stance. So do not let people think that they know what you're gonna do next and grab them. Hey, just in case that you've been enjoying the content until now or find it useful, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to support the channel, especially if you like content around fighting games. Thank you, and let's continue. And well, now we can move into the second tip or point in the video, which is going to be around Alex normals and how to abuse them in the mid-range as well, okay? Alex has arguably some of the best high-range normals in the game, and you can even charge moves like heavy punch or heavy kick to make them plus on block. So this is something that you also need to be using every single match with this character, and if you want to win more consistently, you need to be playing that mid-range spacing trap with the normals and mix it with the Prowler stance option. So which normals should you be using with Alex? And I would argue that your first priority should be using the charge version of heavy punch, and the reason for that is because when you charge heavy punch, it actually becomes a special cancelable, and that means that you can do, for example, in the mid-range, charge heavy punch to check people, and if they do drive impact, you're actually going to be able to answer that yourself with your own drive impact. So it's going to be kind of like the first layer of button checking in the mid-range, because people cannot just mash drive impact against it, right? So it's really important to get that charge heavy punch right and understand the range in which you can use it. And then after, when you have already kind of conditioned people to not mash drive impact and really play the footsies in that mid-range with just buttons, then you can move into using stuff like, for example, charge heavy kick, which is plus on block and even bigger than heavy punch, or even I would say standing medium kick, which has a ton of range and it has a faster recovery. So even though it is not special cancelable, you can still sometimes have actually time to do drive impact anyway. So those 3 buttons are really important in the mid-range, and they're arguably some of the best normals that Alex has, so get ready to play those footsies in the mid-range with these giant normals. And then the extra layer that you need to add to this tip as well is that if, for example, your opponent blocks your charge heavy punch and your plus, and it is a special cancelable, then you can do the heavy version of chop, which is quarter circle forward and heavy punch, and that is also plus on block. So it's going to be kind of like a loop of you just getting turns again and again if you actually play the footsies and the mid-range right and you know which options are the best in each situation. And then finally, when you get into a situation in which you're closer to your opponent, you can use a standing medium punch. This normal is absolutely nuts. It's 0 on block, so it's anyone's turn, and at the same time it actually has a target combo into heavy punch that you can kind of like hit confirm, and after that you can cancel that target combo into stance and get pressure. So it is one of the best things that Alex has in the game when he's up close and is trying to play like the footsie game. Like standing medium punch can be really strong. So if you use all of these options depending on the range and you have used the normals correctly, you're gonna see that in the mid-range Alex is actually a monster. Oh, and don't forget, it's technically not a normal, but the heavy chop is actually gigantic, so you can also kind of just throw it out there if people are respecting, because it has a ton of range and it's also plus on block. Okay, so now we can move into the third tip or point in the video, and it's going to be understanding Alex command grabs, because Alex has his classic power bomb, but the versions actually have different frame data and different range, so you need to kind of understand when to use them, okay? So in, for example, some interactions, if you do stuff like crouching light kick into standing light punch, you're actually not really on top of your opponent. So you need to do the light version of power bomb because it has a little bit more range, but it is slower. And when you are right in the face of your opponent, you can do the heavy version of power bomb, which is really fast. It's only 5 frames startup, and it only works if you are like right in the face of your opponent. And the middle version is like, you know, the middle version, right? It has a little bit more range than the heavy, and it is a little faster than the light, but with less range than that one. So you need to kind of understand this. Even though it can be something really simple, it is make or break for the character, because some interactions are going to be literally perfect for the specific range of each version of the power bomb. And then another couple of things that are really important about Alex command grabs and regular grabs is one, that on prowler stance, after you do a jab super up close, you can actually do your regular grab from stance and it's going to connect. So it is kind of like a mix-up from the jabs on prowler stance to do a regular grab after one hit. And the other one is that do not forget that you have the DDT, okay? You have a mid-range forward momentum command grab that is kind of like a mid-jumping, you know, like a small jump in the mid-range. It is going to be relevant for some situations and for the mental stack that this character puts you into. So do not forget about those 2 extra options from Prowler Stance when it comes to grabs and command grabs. Okay, so now we can move into point number 4 or tip number 4 on the video, and it's going to be around hard knockdowns and EX moves. When you think about a character like Alex that is a brawler and also a grappler at the same time, kind of like a hybrid, it is actually really important for him to get good Oki options, to get like real situations in which he can put pressure on you and he actually has plus frames or mix-ups. But the problem is that this character doesn't really get that often unless you do EX moves, and for that you need to be using these EX moves that I'm going to show you in most of your combo routes if you can. The first one is going to be using EXDP, okay? This is arguably the best Oki option or situation for Alex in the entire game, because after EXDP people get into a hard knockdown state, so they just have to stand, you know, in the same spot, and also you are really close to them, so you can literally just dash, don't use any resource for the Oki, and you're plus on their face and they have to eat a mix-up, or you have to guess a reversal and then get a big punish, right? So if you think that you can end your combo round with EXDP and it's actually not going to be a problem for your drive gauge, like you're not gonna be close to burnout or anything like that, I would recommend you to use EXDP most of the time, because the Oki situation is really scary and it's actually true pressure. They cannot escape from it if you execute it right. And then you have other EX moves that also give you Oki, but they are not as good as EXDP. Like for example, doing EX command grabs after heavy chop, they also give you kind of like some Oki if you drive rush and things like that. And also using EX chop, okay, because you can do EX chop into stance and you have a ton of time to dash into your opponent and kind of like see the situation that you can apply when it comes to pressure. So these situations, even though they are not like as good as the EXDP, they're still really strong or better than just doing, for example, a regular power bomb into going into neutral again. So if you have the opportunity to use one of these EX moves in your combo routes or in some interactions, you should be prioritizing like using the resources in the game to get these hard knockdowns. And now we move into the last tip or point in this video, and it's going to be an extra mix-up for Alex, because if you have been paying attention to the video, this character is all about mental stack. When Alex is on top of you, it's his turn, and you have to guess between command grab, big button with plus frames, or maybe mix up with actual normals and more. You're kind of like so overwhelmed that you're actually not gonna think of this. And this is Alex overhead, and he actually has an overhead with forward medium punch, and you are gonna open a ton of people up with this after mixing them up with the command grabs, because they are not gonna think about the overhead. So you need to add that into your arsenal on offense. It's going to be really important to actually get kind of like, you know, the snowball going, because Alex as a character is all about the mental stack and also the snowball playstyle. Like you get one opening and then you get another and another and another, and then out of nowhere you just got around. And this overhead is going to help you with that. You can do overhead into standing medium punch, into actually medium chop, and then you can transition it into stance and get more mix-up. So really important to add this overhead into your game plan. So that was the 5 tips video for Alex, this kind of guys that I like to do when characters come out. I find that it's really fun and useful to kind of like go over the moveset of these characters in a more functional way and think about their game plan more than the inputs and like specifically how do you use each thing. So hopefully it is useful. Let me know in the comments if you liked it, if you think that it's going to help you to learn how to play Alex, and of course like and subscribe if you can to support the channel. I would appreciate it, and I'm gonna keep making more content for Alex on Street Fighter 6. Now that this character is out, I'm actually much more excited for the game because I finally have kind of like a main character, so I'm probably gonna play this game much more than before and make guides and extra content for Alex as a character and for the game overall. So thank you for the support, take care, and enjoy Street Fighter 6.